I'm willing to take full responsibility for the horrible events of the last 24 hours, but you must understand. Our interest in their world was purely for the betterment of mankind. Everything has clearly gotten out of hand now, yes. But it was worth the risk, I assure you.
Welcome, friends and demons, to another episode of Critical Analysis. With less than 2 weeks before the premiere of Doom Eternal, I wanted to do a video about its predecessor, Doom 2016. And holy shit, what a fucking opening to the game that was. From the very beginning of the game, I was hooked, save a few moments here and there. So let's talk about these issues, and how they could be improved in Doom Eternal. As I prefaced before, I loved every second of the game for about 5 hours into it. It was high-octane gameplay that really hit the mark of the Doom name. However, as I continued to play, I felt as if the gameplay loop as a whole was beginning to wane on me. Simply put, I started to get a little bit bored at times, and this, I felt, was for two reasons. Firstly, I felt early on that the enemies were not varied enough to keep me interested in the gunplay. However, I didn't dwell on this too much, as there was a much bigger issue that superseded it. In addition, this is something that can be fixed very easily in Doom Eternal. And from what I've seen of the gameplay, for the most part, they have solved this issue, with new enemy types and different AI designs that make combat a little bit more intricately involved than just ramping up damage ratios. So I won't spend much time talking about that. The real issue that I found early on, perhaps as a result of the lack of enemy types in varying numbers, was that I grew very tired of the glory kill system. And unlike other games, where glory killing is simply a gratifying feature, in Doom, glory kills are almost baked straight into the core mechanical gameplay itself. Especially at higher difficulties, it is necessary to perform glory kills because of the health and armor respite gained from them. This to me was where the inherent problem came in. The glory kills quickly became monotonous and repetitive due to a lack of enemy types and a lack of said kills for each type. In addition, some of the kills that are there just don't hit with the impact that they probably should. In short, they were kind of pathetic. Once you have seen it once, it becomes extremely transparent that not a ton of thought was put into the actual performance of these kill scenes. They eventually became so monotonous that I simply resolved not to do them unless absolutely necessary for health and armor, instead wasting shots to put creatures down for good. And in a game like Doom, that is definitely not a good thing. Badass brutality is what the game is about, and once it loses that flavor, Doom becomes a shell of a first-person shooter. In essence, id Software should be 100% focused on this fact. Making the game feel less repetitive would be a massive improvement that should be made in Doom Eternal. For the record, I have seen what little gameplay they have allowed us to see, and it seems that id Software has addressed this issue for the most part in Doom Eternal. It seems that the blood and gore has been ramped up significantly, adding to the impact of these glory kills when they are performed. This is a very, very good thing. Although I'm still not certain they have fixed the issue with the game's overall repetitive nature in glory killing. We kinda really have yet to see. To be perfectly honest, there really isn't much to Doom in the first place. It's high-octane bloody combat and music. Badass fucking music. And that is all the Doom formula is and really needs to be. However, these things are so pivotal that if even one of them is done wrong, the entire design falls apart at the seams. The music was another major issue I had with the game. And first I would like to say that Mick Gordon is a fantastic composer, and I found myself rocking out to the vast majority of his soundtracks for this game. The problem I found, though, was that it was really missing something. It felt to me that the music, although worked for the design, missed a drastic factor that made it not quite hit like 6 beers in at a metal show. And that void was immediately apparent to me. One of the things that makes Killing Floor hit so hard in its gameplay is when you opt in for the vocals in the music. There's something so satisfying about blowing away zombies to Slayer, Anthrax, and Demon Slayer. And while I could get into the music behind Doom, it didn't exactly stand out on its own as well as it could have. Critically speaking, after a while, the music just tends to kind of fade into the background as noise, rather than enthralling you in the scenery like Killer Instinct so perfectly encapsulated. Objectively, this was the result of id Software and their baffling choice of no metal. They were afraid of being too corny, whatever the fuck that means. However, as told by Mick Gordon, over the time of its development, they did backpedal that choice. And while eventually they let metal take over the majority of the soundtrack, it seemed to be a choice they're still trying to abide by today with the overwhelmingly bad reception of the dreaded Doom rap trailer. I will show this now, but be aware, this is pretty bad.
March against it to the end. Yeah. This is my mission, I'm here for the purpose. I give them that vision, we put in that work and we flipping that rhythm till everything surges. Today is the day we rebel with a purpose. Renegade, front lines, let it ring.
I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I was gonna let that keep going and do a big joke of it, but honestly, I can't bring myself to subject you guys to that atrocity for longer than I have to. It's fucking tone deaf. The great thing is, the gaming community around Doom reacted exactly as they should have to this trailer, hopefully showing id Software that metal was not in fact corny like they thought, but exactly what the community wanted and were looking for in the Doom soundtrack. Another issue I found was that the music seemed to me to feel as if it went through a bit too much post-processing. It felt very synthetic. Anyone who knows music theory will tell you that the authenticity of the music is extremely important if you're attempting to invoke emotion. And in Doom, the emotion you're attempting to invoke is a sense of perpetual momentum. Intensity is the name of the game, and the game is effectively one massive rising action. You want your high notes, you want your low notes, you want your crescendos. You really want to invoke that sense of brutality and power for the player. While the music doesn't exactly fail at this job entirely, it is slightly inadequate for the job at hand. I felt much more drawn into the action when I simply muted the music and played my own thrash, death, or black metal in the background. Now, this is all personal preference, of course. There's probably a lot of people that really enjoyed the music, but let me give you an example here. So this is the music from the game, ripped directly off the title. Which, honestly, in my opinion, feels rather subdued and a bit neutered from a musical perspective. I would have much rather heard something like this, for instance. Now, that was an industrial synthetic version remixed of E1M1's At Doom's Gate. And the reality is if you're trying to tell me that the actual game's music is better than that, I'm sorry, but you're just wrong. That has so many more high notes, so many more low notes, feels more brutal, and it's all around just a better version of the song. Of course, this is just personal preference, and I'm sure a lot of people enjoyed the take on the music as it was. The bigger issue to me was the subjectively light take on Mick Gordon's idea of game-influenced music. I personally love the style that Killer Instinct brought to the table, almost allowing you to create your own song as you fought your opponent. I absolutely adored this fact, and it kept me playing that game long after I would have otherwise quit playing other fighting games. And so when I heard Mick Gordon was going to be involved with Doom, I was extremely excited to see how the game would influence the music as you played. Unfortunately, while it isn't bad by any means, It's not exactly phenomenal like Killer Instinct. It's just kinda there. Having the music interact with the game far more is something they should really improve in the next title. Having the music not fade away in the blitzkrieg of battle as you play should be an extremely important part of the game design. Although there are many concerns I have with the game designs and systems overall, I'm no less excited to get my hands on Doom Eternal. As a Doom fan, as a Metal fan, it is everything I'm looking for in a simple first-person shooter. If I want something more, then I'll go play a different title. Doom should not be more than it is. And what it is a badass, metal as fuck demon slaying game. And that's all it really needs to be. The only concern I have about the future of Doom is how long that design will remain fun to play. It is a really shallow game design, and honestly, I can only really see it going for about 2 more games before people grow tired of it. That is, of course, unless they make some drastic changes to the core gameplay that redefines the game down the road. I have already talked to a few people that have told me that they didn't like Doom 2016 simply because the design was just too simple from the top to the bottom, and they found it boring. I can only assume that this portion of people who feel this way will only grow as more games come out, if the mechanics and gameplay aren't deepened significantly with each game. But me, I'll continue playing this game regardless. Call me a super fan, fanboy, whatever the fuck you want. I honestly don't really care. I just love me a goddamn good headbangers ball.